I think the standards have had a really positive impact in general on school design. When I think back to when I started my career, almost 25 years ago, it was very difficult to argue that you need an acoustician on the project. So it's a very simple boon from the process, but the fact that I can just say, well, we can't do the project and comply with these certification criteria without an acoustician. In fact, so again, it gets back to the core of creating those great learning environments. But now we've got an expert on the team that can help do that. Whereas before, LEED or CHIPS, it wasn't available to us because fees are competitive in the venues that we work with quite often. So that's one very direct benefit with respect to the educational environment. But certainly, it's changed the conversation quite dramatically, and I think inspired a lot of people to pursue good design in some ways. In many ways, I think sustainability, like preservation, maybe a generation before it, started out as this innovative idea, but now it's simply becoming good practice. And without those systems, I think provoking the conversation, it wouldn't have necessarily happened, at least that easily. From that, though, I think everybody's pushing in some ways, to those other goals, whether it's net zero, which certainly those systems can accommodate, but there are other systems out there. But then, there's this other emphasis on well, and and a lot of the emphasis may be changing towards focusing a little more on the user and their benefits gained from good design, which sort of circles back to this idea of net positive education that we put forward. That's our emphasis, not necessarily focusing on sort of the inputs to that process. It's how do we get to that, leveraging all the sustainable design goals. But the other thing that we're doing now is, and we just had a really great workshop with a group called EcoRise here. I don't know if you know them, but what they're helping us do, again, bringing additional expertise to the table, is embrace everything that's coming out of LEED, on this particular process, and integrate it into the curriculum. So we're sitting around with a bunch of teachers, the principal, the folks from EcoRise, our design team, and all just sort of brainstorming. How do we get the kids, to really be inspired by what we're doing, and have this sort of active and experiential learning that is sort of fundamental to 21st century education. So I think the certification processes got the ball rolling. They became good practice, and now it's where do we go from there?